Hey, welcome back to art class with Mr. Darby. Today we're going to be working on a project that I call the Atmospheric Perspective Project. I know what you're thinking, what in the world is atmospheric perspective? But to make this simple, atmospheric perspective is a lot like the fog you see when you're driving down the road or you're sitting in your house and you look out the window and you can't see very far away. So how do we create that fog, that atmosphere? And the easiest way to do it is with tracing paper. So I've got tracing paper, I've got black paper for my silhouettes, and then I've got orange paper as a background color. Let me show you how to do this. To begin today, we'll have our first layer of silhouette and our sky paper to do the project. I also have scissors to be able to cut the silhouette out, and I have my pencil to draw it. Use rulers in elementary school very often because they just become very confusing. So I tell the kids, use 2 fingers, come down and put a dot on your paper. Do the same thing on each side. I'm a lefty, so I try and make it as easy as I can, but you can use whichever hand is comfortable for you. In this layer, I want to make mountains. So I'm going to start the dot. I'm going to bring my mountains down and come up a little bit. Try not to cross the line, this imaginary line that connects the dots. And then bring my mountain down and lower and then back up, just like this. Now that I have my line drawn, I'm ready to cut it out. Remember to use your helping hand to hold the paper and hold it close to the cut so that it's a little easier for the scissors. Now that I have my mountain cut out, what I'm ready to do is glue it down. So here's my orange paper with the sky, and here's my mountain showing. You can also see some pencil lines where I made a mistake. When I cut, this is okay. I want to show you this on purpose. Use your glue stick and glue on top of the pencil side. If you glue on the other side, the clean side, then your pencil lines will show after it's glued down. I'm going to put 2 layers of glue all the way around it, following the edge as best as I can. Just like this. Some people want to put an X in the middle, some people put a dot in the middle, some people want to fill it all in. Just a simple tracing around the edge of the paper with the glue is all you really need. Now I'll lay this down and line it up as perfectly as I can at the bottom. And remember, not all construction paper is going to be cut in equal size. So if it goes off the edge like it does over here, don't be worried about it. It might even go further off the edge, especially if you cut it like I do. I'll do just the sides, the vertical lines on my actual project. There. Now I have a nice clean flat sheet of tracing paper. Line it up at the bottom, line it up in the corner. Remember, if it doesn't match up perfectly, it'll be all right, because at the end of the project we can use a paper cutter or scissors or a straight edge ruler and a X-Acto knife to cut it. Okay, so here's my first layer. You can see that doesn't line up at the top, and you can see the glue is coming through only on the sides. This is why we do the sides, because it will show up through the top and bottom, and we don't want it in the sky. This will also dry, and as it dries, it will disappear a little bit. But at the very last layer, we'll add some trees on the edges to cover up where we glued our tracing paper as best as we can. The first layer, I marked down 2 fingers. This one, I'll do 4. Lay it down, draw with my pencil a dot on one side and draw it on the other. When I do this, I turn the paper. Turn the paper if it makes it easier, that's fine. So the next step is I'm going to make a U shape coming down and back up. Then I'm going to add pine trees. So my pine trees will look like this. They don't have to be perfect, and they definitely should not be the same size. You can make them touching if you want, or you could space them out. I'll do tall one right here. So in this case, I have ones that are touching each other, and I like that. Maybe I'll leave a little gap right here, and I'll come up the other side. And remember, we're going to put taller pine trees close to the edge, so it would be pointless to make our pine trees go all the way over to the edge. Now, when we cut out our pine trees, you do not want to cut here, 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 and here. You don't want to cut on the line. You want to cut down the side, up the pine, down the pine, and across, not cutting the trees off of the line by accident. Now that our paper's cut, we're ready to add it to our background. Remember, we're going to glue the pine trees down and around all the edges. When you glue it, again, on the pencil side. And also, remember, when you're drawing, we're drawing them small because they're farther away. So let's just lay it down and take a look at it here. Our layer of fog. Ready? Let's glue. As you're wiping this layer down, remember to be careful about the zigzags you cut out of your pine trees. Okay. Let's get another piece of tracing paper out to make the second layer of fog. So we have our 2 layers of fog, and we have mountains and a rolling hill with tall and short pine trees spread out. We left a space in the middle for the next step, and the next step is going to be a picture of maybe some bushes and a nice cabin here on the mountainside, and then we'll do our last layer, which will be our tree. So as I've said before, we went 4 fingers. This time you want 6, so I just measured down 4 fingers and then 2 more and put my dot. Come to the other side, measure down 4 fingers, put a dot, measure down 2 more. That way I have a total of 6 fingers. So it's basically 2, 4, 6, 8, and that's how we can make sure that we have perfect layers so we can see everything we've drawn. All right, now we make our building. So our building would be a 3D house. So we do 1, 2, 3 vertical lines. Then we make a capital A shape on top. And then we make a parallel line and a diagonal that matches the left side of the capital A shape here. And 2 parallel lines that come across like this. If you had a knife, you could add windows, because if you cut out the windows, you would be able to see the fog in the picture behind it. But I don't want to do that since I'm working with kids who are using scissors only. I'll add a chimney here. And maybe I can even add another little part of a house to look like a lean-to or a garage. Let's make a couple of small bushes here and here. And maybe I'll even add another pine tree here. We want to keep this layer pretty simple. It is all about the house, and then the last layer will have our pine trees. Let's go ahead and begin cutting. Okay, here's our cabin on a hill. So we could probably end with this layer if we wanted to, and it would take care of making a picture with the focal point, but we want to do another layer so that we can add the pine trees. First, let's go ahead and glue on this side since it has the pencil showing, and we'll do our final layer of tracing paper. Now you can see that as we're working, we're using enough of the tracing paper, and my paper's thick enough that it makes it difficult to see the mountains back here. When I add my last layer of tracing paper, you can see how difficult it becomes to see even the mountains in the background. You could almost say that the color of the sky at this point doesn't matter. It could have been any color. You could barely see the orange, but it does give it a nice glow. Our last layer, then, we glue down and we add our tall pine trees on the sides to make it look like big pines on a hill. To start our next layer, I could do 8 fingers down if I want to, which I will. I'll do 4 fingers, a dot, 4 fingers, a dot. Flip it around. From the top, come down 4 fingers, put a dot, come down 4 more fingers, and put a dot. Okay. That's our ground. That's where our pines are going to go. And we're just going to put a pine up the left and a pine up the right. So here, I'm going to make this pine so that it's so big that it goes off the edge of the paper. Again, it will not cover anything. Well, I guess it will be on this side, except for the glue, which is perfectly fine. I'll come over here. I'll make another pine coming up. And I maybe make a small one here. And as we flip it over, they shouldn't cover much. Okay, let's cut that out. Here's our last layer finally cut out and ready to be glued. You can line it up. Remember, we glue on the pencil side, so let's go ahead and glue it. With our final layer being glued down, we've now created a project using atmospheric perspective to create space or distance or depth in our picture. Our layers of tracing paper are a lot like fog, and in fact, in real life, the more fog, the harder it is to see. So you can see how we've used size, the different sizes of the pine trees, getting smaller as they get farther away, and atmospheric perspective to create the illusion of space. I hope you had fun drawing with me today. I look forward to working with you again soon. Keep on practicing because we know practice makes progress. In the meantime, stay safe and I'll see you soon.